Hello everyone, we welcome you all in our subject module of the services marketing. So, in our previous discussion we have dealt with the development of the new services and we have discussed two of the steps, that is the very first step that is being talked of in the sense of the idea generation, and the second step was all being related with the screening of the new development ideas. So, the very first step, that is the generation of the ideas, and the second step, that is the pruning of the generated ideas on the basis of their technical capability, managerial feasibility. All these were being talked of in our previous discussion. In our latest discussion, in our current discussion, we will be dealing within a third step, that is being associated within a concept development and testing. Let us move on with the slide. Now, the concept development and testing, earlier also we have discussed that here we have to ensure, we as a service provider, we have to ensure that who are our target audience, we have to identify, we have to select, we have to just monitor out that who are the people who are interested enough and over whom we are trying to craft out our 7 P's towards meeting out their expectations and the aspiration, that is their target audience, and that is to be done with the help of deploying one of the strategy that is being set as in a market segmentation. So, the service provider or the organization, they have to firstly identify that who are the people over whom we have to craft out our efforts in terms of the 7 P's, and that are being defined as in a target audience. And we have also discussed that we have to ensure that what are the buying process, who are the people, that is the decision maker in the purchase process, as in being written in the slide, that who are the decision maker in the purchase process. So, in previous discourse we have dealt with that basically there are 5 steps in the purchase process or the buying process. Whether we are whether we are discussing the purchase process of the physical commodities or whether we are discussing the purchase process or the consumption process of the services. Basically, we are being concerned with 5 steps that are being undertaken by the consumer or the customer for the purpose of effective purchase and the consumption of services and the product also. So, here we are seeing that the decision maker in the purchase process, we have said that basically there are 5 steps that is being said as in a need recognition, information search, evaluation of alternatives, and then purchase process and the post purchase process, the 5 steps in the purchase process or the buying process. Now, here we have to answer, we have to identify that who are the people who are being involved in the purchase process. Because basically in a particular family we are having different kind of people or different kind of members who are holding out their own notions and beliefs, and they are giving an input towards the purchase process of a particular physical commodity or towards the consumption of a specific service. So, the people who are there in the family structure may be defined and they are playing out in a specific role. They are being defined in terms of the initiators, influencers, deciders and users. We are having 4 category to talk of if we are discussing the consumption and the assimilation of the services in a particular family structure. So, here we have to identify that who are the people who are initiating out the consumption or the purchase, not only consumption, very first step is in a purchase process. So, here we have to identify that who are the people in the family structure or who are the people in your particular family structure who are initiating or sensing out a need to go in for the purchase and the consumption of a specific service. They can be anyone, they can be a kid, it can be a people in your family structure maybe who is not very much being directly influenced with the purchase and the consumption of a service. Even then he or she may be giving you an input to go in for the purchase and the consumption of a particular service. So, you as a service provider, you have to just identify that who are the people who are initiating or who are giving out an input in the purchase process. Similarly, after the initiator, we are having a second member in your family role or in your family structure. They may be as an initiator. After initiator, there may be as acting as an influencer. Now, influencer, it is not necessary or it is not imperative that these are the people who are holding out a role or who are a member of your family structure only. It may so happen that initiation is being done by the people who are coming from the society and they are giving you an input to go in for the purchase and the consumption of a particular specific service. It's not very much being compulsory, but generally it is being seen that in a particular family structure the different members are playing these kind of roles, that is the initiator and influencer. Now, we are defining and we are limiting our discussion towards a family structure, the people who are holding and who are playing a different set pattern, they are playing a different kind of role in your particular family structure and they are giving out an input. So, the second one is an influencer. These are the people in your family structure who are giving an input, whether to go in for a particular brand, whether to go in for a particular kind of service, whether to go in for a particular kind of brand name. Different kind of options are there. They will be giving you at input, they will be giving at your input to go in for a particular alternative options which are there available in the market. So, they will be influencing you out in terms of the brand proposition, in terms of the prices factor, in terms of the availability of the different kind of offerings that are there in the market area. Similarly, the decider. The decider are the people in your family who are having a say whether definitely to go in for the right process. Yes, they will be giving out a notion to in a very definite terms to move in for the yes process or to go in for the no process. So, decider are generally the people who are the topmost, I mean who are the eldest person in your family, maybe your parents, maybe your grandparents, who will be giving you an input, yes, to go in for the purchase and the consumption of the services, or whether to just withhold with this particular information. And the after decider, it is the user in your family who are the member in your family structure who has not given an input or who is not being associated with the purchase process, but they are the direct having out a capability that they are using out the direct services. So, these are the direct or the end consumers or the end customers, not customers, we can say that the end users who are directly being affected towards the creating and the disposition of the services by the service provider. So, here the first question, that is who is the target market and over whom the decision maker, who are the person who are trying to act as a decision maker in the purchase process, that has to be that has to be analyzed, that has to be monitored by the service provider, that the people who are being involved in the purchase process, the different kind of people who are being involved in the purchase process has to be identified by the firm. Similarly, the second question, that is what product features must the product incorporate. Here earlier also we have discussed the same fact that the product is not being talked of in the physical sense, the different kind of benefits, the different deeds and the associations or the different levels of the product, they are playing a very important role and profound role towards making any kind of add-ons, towards making any kind of deletions in the different levels of the product, and to come out with a new kind of feature in the target in this competitive scenario. So, the second question, that is what product features must the product incorporate. Here the features has to be analyzed. The features may be like in terms of the sizes, like in terms of the adding on the different kind of contrasting combinations, adding on the color combinations, giving you a greater appeal in terms of the its users factor, in terms of the benefit factor, in terms of the cost factor, in terms of the sizes of the containers. Any kind of add-ons can be given in the core feature or in the core benefit that you are trying to provide in the market area. So, here what product features must the product incorporate. Here we are limiting our discussion towards the services. So, the services are intangible, they are perishable. So, then we as a service provider, we as a firm, we have to ensure that whatever new features, whatever new variants we are adding to our core services, that should be either in terms of acting as a facilitating goods, or they may be acting as a supporting goods towards enhancing the benefit of the core services that we are trying to offer in the market area. So, the features has to be added, and those features will be giving you an add-ons towards extending out your life cycle also. So, the product features has to be like it has to be ensured by the service marketer, by the service provider, that the certainly the certain kind of add-ons and deletions has to be made at any kind of level of the product. So, that should be in consonance towards meeting out the expectations of the target audience. Now, the third question, that is what benefits would the product provide. Definitely as an effective, as a sensitive customer, as a consumer, our effort of the purchase process is being made in consonance with meeting out our expectations, and that expectations are being defined in the sense of the purchase process and in the sense of the prices that we are trying to pay in the market area. So, what benefits that the product will provide? Here we have to ensure that the core services that we are trying to launch and that we are trying to offer in the market area should be having a capability towards meeting out the expectations and the aspirations of the consumers to a greater extent, and giving out a unique selling proposition, giving you a unique kind of advantages as compared to the services or as compared to the present services that are already being offered by their competitors. So, you should be able to sense it out that if you are trying to develop out a new kind of service, you are trying to develop out a new kind of process, new kind of a new kind of variant, and you are trying to increase the market area, that should be having a capability to give you an added and an add-on features as compared to the present version of the product that is there available in the market area. Similarly, the next question is, how will consumers react to the product? As an effective provider, you have to just ensure that the reactions, the predispositions, the attitudes, the personalities of the customers and the consumers has to be monitored. They has to be evaluated prior before the launching of the product. So, here that is the reaction of the consumers, the reaction of the customers with regard to your offering. Definitely, it may so happen that if they are being satisfied, definitely that will lead to a positive reinforcement. Earlier also we have discussed the same fact that the positive reinforcement will be developing and it will be creating a habit of the learned habit. It will be developing to have a habit of learned purchase process. And if you are if after the purchase and the consumption of the services, if you are having a feeling of delightment, definitely you go in for the purchase and the consumption of the same services again and again. And the contrary to it, if negative reinforcement happens upon, if you have a feeling of the cognitive dissonance, if there is a frustration that is going on in your mind and the actual performance of the product is not up to the expectations that you have expected from the offerings of the service provider, you will be feeling out having out a feeling of the cognitive dissonance, that is the frustration. So, that will lead to the negative reinforcement, and you as a consumer and a target audience will not be able to make out the purchase decision again in the earlier discourse. So, this is that is a reaction of the consumers that has to also to be monitored, that has to also to be evaluated with regard to your offering. The next question is, how will the product be produced most cost effectively? Definitely, it is a cost factor that plays a very profound role, and as a service provider, we have to ensure, we have to make out the different kind of cost benefit analysis, whether to go in for make or buy decisions can also be done upon. So, here in case of the services, it is not imperative to just manufacture. The manufacturing is being done, and that manufacturing is basically it is an intangible manufacturing. It is a manufacturing that is more being having a feature of the intangibility, the inseparability, the inconsistency and the variability. So, here as in a firm, we have to ensure that the products that we are trying to offer, which are more being associated with the services, that has to be justified in terms of the cost. Either we can go in for the making out the cost benefit analysis, whatever cost that is to be incurred towards offering the services in terms of the direct cost, indirect cost, the overheads like the marketing overheads, the selling overheads, all these has to be analyzed, and definitely that has to be evaluated in terms of the benefits that we are reaping with the launch of the product. So, the benefits, that is the customer footfalls, the benefits in terms of the customer's loyalty that they are showing towards the consumption of your offerings, that has to also to be evaluated, because those loyal customers will be acting to create a goodwill factor for you. So, you have to analyze out here, that is the question has to be analyzed in terms of the making out the cost benefit analysis. Similarly, the next question is, prove feasibility through virtual computer aided rendering and rapid prototyping. That is, prove feasibility through virtual computer aiding rendering and rapid prototyping. Now, here we as in a firm, we have to just make sure that whether the efforts that we are making out, they are feasible enough, they are feasible in terms of the technical aspect, they are feasible in terms of the managerial capability, the financial viability that we are having on, because we know that every organization, they are having a limited resources at their disposal, and that limited resources are being put in the alternative use. So, that feasibility has to be channelized, and that feasibility may be channelized in terms of selecting certain kind of statistical techniques, in terms of taking the help of certain kind of computer aided techniques, or the prototype model can be developed and it can be tested in a selected chosen market segment, so that the response of the consumers can be evaluated, can be appraised, and later on, before launching the product in a commercialization phase, we will be able to check out and we will be able to gauge out the different kind of shortcomings or the pitfalls that are being associated in terms of the making out our core offering to be launched on a full-fledged basis, because the customers have already been given out the response in the prototype development of the product, and that has been launched in a chosen market area, or the test marketing is being done. Now, this is the question that is talks about what will it cost to produce it. That is already being said as the cost benefit analysis has to be undertaken. Different kind of cost that is being talked of in the sense of the fixed cost, the indirect cost, direct cost has to be analyzed, and then the benefits has to be computed. The gestation period has to be evaluated, because we know that when the cost is being incurred in terms of the different heads, the expenditures are being made, the outlays are being made, its return, the payout ratio, that is the payout ratio has to be computed and has to be analyzed. Whenever the inputs are being given in terms of the cost factor, after how much duration, after how much gestation period will be able to reap out the benefits, will be able to reap out the gains. So, this is a payout ratio that has to be computed enough by the finance manager, by the different kind of departmental heads who are working in your establishment. The next one is the next point, that is the test the concept by asking a sample of prospective customers what they think of the idea. Now, this concept testing, the concept development and testing, it says that here the prototype model is being, this last point, it says that here the prototype model has to be developed and it has to be launched in a chosen market area. Now, the chosen market area should be of a representative, it should be of a representative or it should be having the capability to represent out the whole market area over whom you are trying to target out your efforts. Having out the features of the competitive validation, having out the features of the demographic validation, similarly the economic validation should also be done, because we are making out our efforts for the purpose of reaping out the surplus similarly. So, all these characteristics and the features has to be borne in the mind by the service provider, by the marketer, before launching out your services or the core offerings in the whole on a full-fledged commercialized basis. So, this is the point that is to be borne by the service provider, that is testing out the concept by asking a sample of the prospective customers. The prototype model of your offering has to be developed and has to be given out to a selected chosen market area, but that selected chosen market area should be having out in a capability to represent out the whole characteristics of the whole market area, having out in a capability wherein the demographic validation is being done. Demographic validation means that is here the target audience size means like their age size, their income, their education, marital status, the sex, their income determinants, all these things has to be taken into account before before choosing out a selected market area, so that you will be able to develop and you will be able to monitor the response that is being shown by that particular chosen market area, and that can be validated. The results of that response can be validated in the whole market area, and then only you will be able to just measure out and gauge out the actual performance of your product, whether that particular response or the feedback that is being given by the chosen market area is being worthy enough to be evaluated in the whole generalized chosen market segment. So, this is the point that has to be taken a worthy note of. Now, moving to the next slide. This is the concept of the business analysis. The fourth stage or the development of the new services. This says that estimating the likely selling price based upon the competition and the customer feedback, estimating the sales volume based upon the size of the market, and the last one is estimating the profitability and the break-even point. Now, the business analysis, as the slide shows, that the business analysis, the concept of the business analysis, which is being said as in a fourth step under the development of the new product ideas, that is the new service product ideas. Here the business analysis can be done in terms of three of the parameters. We can make the demand analysis, we can go in for the cost analysis, we can go in for the profitability analysis. Any kind of parameter like these kind of, not any kind of, we can say that all these kind of parameters has to be analyzed, it has to be monitored. Now we know that the demand analysis. The demand analysis is acting as a first parameter, the first category which has to be undertaken by a firm in order to fulfill out the step of the business analysis. We know that our effort as a provider of the services, or our effort as an entrepreneur, as a marketer, or as a business organization that are being done for the purpose of reaping out on a good profitable gains, the effort in terms of the making out an adequate demand of the core offerings that you are trying to propose. And we know that the demand is in a function of different kind of variables, and these different variables are firstly the prices of the product that you are trying to offer, the income of the people, the income of the consumers, because the target audience, if they are not having gotten a good economic bracket, if they are not falling in a good economic bracket, if their personal income and the disposable income are not good enough to move in for the purchase process, definitely your effort will be futile. So we are saying that the demand is in a function of definitely 4 of the important variables that has to be borne in the mind by the marketers, and these variables are the prices of the product that you are trying to offer. Because as in a price sensitive customer, what we are trying to do is that we are trying to evaluate the quality of the product, we are trying to evaluate the quality of the services in terms of the prices that we are paying, and those prices are quantifiable in the monetary cost. So similarly, the economic determinant, that is your personal income and the disposable income, should be good enough, then only you will be able to just purchase and consume out the services. Similarly, the availability of the substitutes, this is a 4th determinant which is affecting the demand function of your core offering. The availability of the substitute products, it may so happen that if you as a service provider, you have escalated the prices of your commodities slightly. So as a price sensitive customer, the customer, what they will do, they will be trying to shift out their purchase decision towards the availability of the next best alternative. So this is in a strategy that is being seen and that is being perceived by every price sensitive customer, because we are the rational consumers, we are logically making out the certain kind of logical deductions. We are going for the logical deductions, analysis is being done in terms of the prices and the benefits that we are reaping. So the availability of the substitutes is also affecting the demand function of your core offering. Similarly, the n number of variables which are there available in the market area, they will also be affecting the demand function of your core offering. So as an effective and an agile marketer and a service provider, you have to make out a forecast, you have to analyze out the demand analysis, you have to do out a demand analysis, and that demand analysis is being associated in terms of making out a forecast of the adequate demand that you are expecting from the core offering, and that may also be understood in the sense of the demand function, as we have discussed. That is, the demand function is or the demand analysis is in a function of the different variables, that is the price of the product that you are trying to offer, the income of the target audience, or the income of the consumers, the availability of the substitute products, and the n number of items, or the n number of variables that are affecting the demand of your product. This is being done. Similarly, we are saying that that is after the demand analysis, we are saying that we have to do the cost analysis. Now, the cost analysis may be done in terms of we know that for the purpose of manufacturing, or for the purpose of producing any of the services, any of the efforts that you are trying to undertake and you are trying to propose and craft in the market area, that do involve certain kind of cost, and those costs are being associated in any kind of way. We have to incur the direct cost, we have to incur the indirect cost. There are certain kind of costs which are basically fixed in nature. Either we are being able enough to offer the core offerings, and whether we are able enough to craft and to offer the offerings in the market area, whether that is being done or not, but the fixed cost has to be incurred. So there are certain kind of costs which are basically fixed in nature, and that has to be borne by the service provider irrespective of the level of the production that is being done by him or her. So like the fixed cost, like the rent that you are trying to pay towards the use of the premises within which you are trying to offer out your services. Similarly, the rent in terms of the electricity charges, basically it is not done a rent, basically it is in a price, there is in a charges that is being defined in terms of the electrical charges, electricity charges, similarly the freight charges that you have to do, that you have to incur. But the freight charges, they are coming in the semi-variable cost, because it is being related in, or it is being associated in terms of the production and the consumption. So the it is coming in the category of the semi-variable cost. But the fixed costs are like the rental charges that you are paying, the insurance, the premium that you are paying in terms of the insurance way, the brokerage fees. Sometimes you are taking the help of the underwriters and the brokerage fees that you have to pay. Similarly, there are certain kind of charges like that is purely being depending upon the level of the production that you are doing, and those are the depreciation cost, like the things that we have discussed, like the depreciation cost or any kind of cost that is basically somewhat being associated with the level of production. So those kind of costs are coming to fall in the category of the semi-variable cost. As a service provider, we have to ensure that the fixed cost, the variable cost that is associated with the level of the production, or the semi-variable cost, all these costs has to be analyzed, because they are the costs that has to be added up. These are the costs that has to be added up, and they are coming to determine out the prices of the final products. So the duty of an effective and agile marketer is to just add up, to just ensure that what are the costs which are falling in the category of the direct one or the fixed cost, which are the costs which are falling in the category of the indirect cost or the semi-variable cost or the variable cost, that has to be included. Similarly, that has to be added upon. Overheads in terms of the administrative costs, the promotional appeals that you are making on, and after adding all these costs, you have to just make out, and you are just trying to add up a markup so that the determination of the final prices of your offerings can be done. So this is the addition of the markup. There has to be a certain kind of parameters, there is a certain kind of justification towards adding the markup that you are trying to make, so that the final disposition of the prices that you are trying to commit and you are trying to offer in the market area can be made very judiciously or rationally. So this is in a cost analysis. Similarly, the marketer has to move on towards the profitability analysis, and the profitability analysis can be done in many of the ways. We can have a break-even analysis, we can go in for the payout analysis. Similarly, we can go in for the discounted cash flow technique. Any kind of method can be chosen by the service provider depending upon their feasibility. We know that the break-even analysis is in a point wherein there is an area of, or there is a point of no profit and no loss. But if you as a provider, you are extending out your level of production after the break-even point, definitely if the demand is adequate regarding your offering, you will be able to report on a profitable gains, because whenever the production is being enlarged depending upon the demand factor, definitely you will be able to report the profitable gains, or the surplus will be reaped by you. So the break-even analysis, similarly payout analysis, earlier also we have discussed the same fact, the payout analysis has to be taken care of, and the target rate of return. We know that whatever investments that we have done in our business venture towards the manufacturing and the offering of the services, whatever investments that we have done, what is the time duration over which, what is the gestation period over which we will be able to reap out that particular kind of investment. So this is in a rate of return analysis should also be done by the marketer or the service provider for the purpose of making out or for the purpose of just making out an analysis which is very much being fruitful enough to go in for the fourth step of the business analysis. Now here the next point is being talked of an estimation of the sales volume based upon the size of the market. The sales volume has to be forecasted. The sales volume, which is very much being similarly being related within a demand analysis, because if the demand is you as a provider, you have estimated on a good adequate demand for your offering, definitely that will be hampering, or that will be affecting the sales volume that you are expecting from your offering. Similarly, the next point, that is the estimation of the profitability and the break-even point we have discussed, that is the profitability analysis can be taken, or the break-even point has to be estimated, has to be calculated, and if as in a versatile marketer you are expanding the level of the production in consonance with the adequate demand that you are expecting, definitely you will be able to report the profitable gains. So in this lecture we have dealt with third and the fourth step, that is the concept development and testing, business analysis. That is all we have discussed in this step. Now, in the next discourse, we will be moving on with the other steps, the chronological steps of the new services development process. Till then, stay safe and stay blessed. We will be meeting in the next session with the next step of the new services development process. Thank you all.